Hey guys, welcome back to Deepak's Daily Reading. So I want to drop a brief voice note on a series of lectures I'm beginning to listen to. I didn't appreciate that on Audible you can get lectures. So it's a series called Great Courses, and within that there's lots of different areas, subject areas, which you can listen to prominent lecturers upon. So I've just begun listening to the history of ancient Egypt, and really interesting, to be honest with you. Really enjoying the lecturer. 30-minute condensed notes, and it's talking about, it's just interesting. I think that a broader point, that as I amp up my volume of reading, I am, of course, expanding the scope of my reading, and as a consequence, I'm getting exposure to a whole garden variety, if you will, of areas, thinking, and ideas. And it harkens back to my time during my A-levels in university, having studied English, history, psychology, and philosophy for my A-levels before going on to do English literature with a minor in philosophy. And I'm just enjoying, to be honest with you, learning about different stuff. As I was mentioning to Axel, it of course remains to be seen how this will fundamentally add value in my life overall. But I feel that, much like the Steve Jobs comment about dropping into classes during his time at Stanford in relation to design and calligraphy, that I have faith that over time the dots will connect, and it's definitely leading me to be a more refined and critical thinker about anything that I get exposure to, as I'm getting continuously exposed to different thoughts, ideas, and historical narratives. So then moving specifically to the history of ancient Egypt, it's just interesting to understand that there's a era called prehistory, which relates to the era before there was any written word, whether it's inscribed on paper, papyrus, cave walls, or anything. And there's three areas, so the way that historians, I guess, as well as anthropologists, define these areas, I think the acronym that I gave to myself was it PMT? Paleolithic, Meso. I need to go back and look at it, but there's three areas of history. And what's just interesting to note, and that was the interesting thing, if you will, about this book specifically, that there's a period within human history, and this of course relates to ancient Egypt and the time at which the Egyptians were there. It was much more like the Serengeti, which is, I believe, more, I think it's Western Africa, as opposed to it being desert, which is of course Egypt today, Northern Africa. So there were lush plains and areas where it could sustain, of course, wildlife as well as therefore humans. And it goes through the ways in which archaeologists are able to determine timelines, carbon-14 dating, but before that, pottery, and how important pottery is for timelines, because they preserve really well even the fragments. And then as pottery evolves over time, it can give a kind of relative history, I think they call it, in relation to its evolution relative to different pots that are found. And it's a good way to determine how long ultimately the differences are between different sites of discovery. So just interesting in general, and then learning about where probably the principles of mummification came from, because in prehistory, Egyptians, if you will, at that time, although this would technically predate Egyptians, because, well, no, it wouldn't actually, because we think of Egyptians as in pharaohs and pyramids, but Egyptians relates to the people of Egypt. And I presume whilst the mythology begins at a certain time, Egyptians as such predate that. So yeah, pretty interesting. And I'm going to continue listening to these lectures. That's just a real minuscule snapshot, but burying humans in sand leads to a natural kind of mummification. The tombs of Egyptians having inscriptions of animals at the top to give this concept of afterlife, because this is the inference, because you go with well, there were pictures and inscriptions, if you will, using different cutting tools of objects that probably related to their lives. So yeah, just good, interesting book. Hey guys, it's Deepak Shukla here. I am huge on listening to books on Audible. So if you're interested in getting all of the insights as I discover them through the course of all the books I read, please do comment, like, and of course subscribe so that you get notified every time we release a video. Thank you so much, and I hope to hear from you soon.